Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody is well today. And I have a question. I have a question for you all. And that is, what is wisdom? Do you understand really if somebody says, are you wise? What does that mean exactly? And if somebody says, you should go talk to this person because they're full of wisdom. Well, what does that exactly mean? Well, we've got a researcher and a doctor. Her name is Dr. and I'm probably going to slaughter your last name, but I'm going to try it anyway. Dr. Laura Gabayan. Yeah? Close?
That was great.
And she's a world-renowned physician and researcher. She's regarded internationally as an expert in research. Her book, Common Wisdom, she scientifically defines wisdom as 8 elements. And just to give you a little bit of background that I've done my research on, and that is that she went in search of 60 people who other people said, you really should go talk to this person because they really are wise. And so she found these 60 people, and then she did extensive interviews with them so that they could she could get an idea of what they valued in their life and what they valued as kind of a way of living that was different or better than a lot of, and I hate to use the term better, but more successful, we'll put it that way, of how they lived their lives. And so she did that, and she did the research. Then she had to put that all together and came up with the book, which is called Common Wisdom. And with that, Dr. Laura, thank you for. You're Dr. Laura, but you're not that Dr. Laura. You're another Dr. Laura.
You can call me Dr. G.
Okay, Dr. G. We'll do that. And thank you for coming, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You are spectacular in the work that you've done. Makes people really sit down and think about how they're living their lives, what is important to them, how to improve their own personal situation through the wisdom that is presented in the book by other people. Is that a fair statement to make?
It is.
Well, congratulations. I think your work is phenomenal. What made you decide? Did an angel come down and tap you on the head one day and say, okay, Dr. G, this is what I want you to create?
So, so I went to med school, and then
Right.
I went to emergency medicine. And then I did 3 more years of training and research. And I was publishing in academia. And then in 2013, I started to notice that my body was falling apart. And it's still not great. I mean, I slur my words. I have muffled speech, and I can't walk well. And I started thinking, okay, so I went to the doctors that I'm used to seeing because I'm a physician, or I respect it. And everyone was so into giving me a label and putting me in a box. And then I was like, well, who doesn't do that? It was the wise. And then I looked at wisdom, and all we knew about it was very anecdotal, very subjective. And I'm like, no, I'm a scientist. I'm not okay with these answers. So that's when I decided I knew how to do research. I decided to study myself. Now, I did not know anything about wisdom. Initially, I realized, okay, you can't just decide someone is wise based on a test or a survey or anything. It's only another person, and that it has an inverse relationship with age. meaning the people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s are wise. And so that's why I only spoke with people who are between 50 and 79. And wisdom is not different based on gender or race or political affiliation. It is different based on region. And that's why I stuck to North America.
That makes perfect sense because we I really think that we here in North America, because of and Mexico not so much, but because of the ability for us to make a living and to live our lives well, it gives us more time to think about things like what is wisdom, and how can I incorporate these things rather than just trying to survive every day. That makes sense to me. Is that kind of the reason a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know what the reason is, but I think your priorities are different. That's what you're saying.
Yes. Thank, thank you for clarifying that for me, because that's what I was trying to say. Our priorities are different. So,
Right.
so, and so you decided that you were gonna. Was it? Was this kind of your passion? We talk a lot about why am I really here, and is this your passion of what you
No,
really want to do?
I didn't. I know. So if you had told me as a little girl who was born in the Middle East and who came here that I would become a physician and then I would write a book, I'd be like, no way. But so no, it was not my passion, but I was used to writing because I'd published a lot. And I was used to kind of, asking questions. And that's where this all came from. So did I know 10 years ago that's what I would do? Absolutely not.
Well, what's fun about that is that because in order to accomplish this, you had to become a master interviewer, because you had to ask people a lot of questions that led to answers, which led to more questions, and you had to listen well. And those are all the attributes of a great interviewer.
And that's what we did. We took the story that people give us and converted it into information. It's a type of research called qualitative data. And that's what we based on the 8 topics, the 8 elements that we assign people.
And you mentioned before, and I'm intrigued by this, that there are 8 elements, but you only found, of the 60 people that you interviewed, you only found one who exhibited signs of all 8.
And it's funny, yes. So in my book, Common Wisdom, I do talk about the 8, which are resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity. And, at the time, I didn't know it would be those. But he turns out the one person that he taught wisdom to people above the age of 60. And he, at the time when I spoke to him, I didn't know it just worked out that he was the one that had all 8. But what he did was teach wisdom. So it works now that I look back.
It's interesting because he had signs of all 8, and a lot of people. Did you find in your research that a lot of people are looking to attain all 8, or are they happy with, if they're spiritual, or if they're whatever they are they happy with where they're at?
Well, I don't know. I didn't ask the people specifically what those, because we didn't know those elements at the time.
Oh,
I
good.
think
Yeah.
I think when we talk about all 8, I think when I think about the audience, people who read the book, my suggestion is be kind to yourself and realize I've broken it down. So you may be good at one thing and you may not be good at another. And if you're not good at that, then pursue it. Try to figure it out more or look into it. So and be patient. It's not happening overnight. It'll take a while, but no, I didn't know all 8 when I talked to them.
Well, I love, and you just mentioned the number one, which is resilience, because you have got to not give up. If you got to keep moving, got to keep
It,
going.
it was definitely not giving up, but it was also people had encountered horrible life events. And when I say horrible, I think when anyone thinks their life is difficult, these people really went through difficulty, and yet they moved on. They did not give up, and they were positive in some way. They're at peace about it. They were not bitter. They were not angry, and it was interesting. They just moved on, as you said.
Well, and I want to point this out because I think it's important. You are one of those people.
Thank you. I did not realize, and that's why I feel like the 8 elements that I found in my book Common Wisdom, they're related, and so I'm very positive. Positivity was our third element. Resilience is the first. And I feel like I'm positive, and that's helped me be resilient. And so thank you for saying that.
Well, because you are putting yourself out there with this book and with doing the interviews that you're doing, and I understand that walking is a challenge for you, and the speech is a little bit of a challenge for you. It takes a lot of resilience and takes a lot of power for you to step out to do this, and because but it's at the same time, Dr. G, it is so important that you do this.
Oh, I agree. I mean, talking to these people, as I mentioned to you, the 8 elements, and I'll say them again because we all forget, is resilience, in my book, Home Wisdom, resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity. And all these 8 elements are not only important for wisdom, they're important for mastering life. So my goal in writing the book is really, the more I think about it, it has already. People talked about how it's improved their life, it's changed their life, it's more than a self-help book. But that's the goal. The goal is for it to affect people.
Well, and that's the thing about when you start talking about a different way of being wise, having wisdom in all the things that you do, so that you go down the checklist of all of these things. If what I'm going to do, am I exhibiting resilience? Am I exhibiting kindness? Am I exhibiting spirituality? Am I exhibiting all of these things going down the list? And that can lead you to a different way of thinking and a different way of being, and I'm sure that you're having people respond to you saying it's changed me because I think differently about these things than I used to. Is that fair?
That's fair, and it also changed me. I mean, I grew up in the Middle East. Kindness was not respected there, and it was viewed as weakness. And so here, kindness was my second element, and I just paid attention to it more. And my husband is very kind, and I've just paid attention to acts of kindness. I've paid attention to that a lot more.
Well, yeah. Now you grew up in the Middle East. Do you mind telling me which country you grew up in?
In Iran. I was born in Iran, and
I've heard stories about that.
I came to this country when I was 6.
And being a female
Yeah.
in Iran is a difficult proposition if you're in the wrong place.
I think if you're a poor female,
Ah,
I think if you're the sister of some prince, or if you're a princess or something, it probably is not as difficult. But I think if you're a common female or poor, then yes.
I- isn't it amazing that a common denominator throughout our entire world is whether or not you have money? If you got money, you get forgiven for a lot of stuff then rather than if you don't have money and then you are less than.
It is, and that's big reason why I love this country. And I would never have become who I am now, having come from the background I had.
Well, and I for one will tell you this, There's a reason why you came here at 6 years old. There's a reason why you went to, I believe it's UCLA for all of your training, and you became a doctor. And there's a reason why all that happened. And part of that reason is so that you could research and write this book because it's going to help people.
Oh, I believe that was in my, yes, I was destined to do this. But would I've ever imagined? No, I initially in 2013, I would probably say around 2017, 18, I realized, you know what? I just can't keep seeing patients anymore. I had already moved to urgent care. From the ER part, I was more in the urgent care. I was seeing patients in a rolly chair because I'd roll into their rooms, and just the act of getting up and looking into their ears and listening, that was really hard for me. And I slowly realized, you know what, I just can't do this anymore. But back then, all I wanted was to get better, to be able to see another patient.
And I'm still hopeful that, because isn't it like Lyme disease or
It's
something like that?
and it'll go away. I'm sure it will. It's not. I don't see myself with having this condition in the future, but right now it's there, and I'm sure it'll be fine. But
But I'm excited to have you on the show again with your next book, because you've got more wisdom in you and more books to write.
thank you. I right now I'm in the midst of promoting this book because I feel like it definitely can open so many eyes and change so many lives. But so no, I'm nowhere near thinking about another book. So
Oh, trust me, it'll just show up for you at one point in time. It may be, and your point is well taken. That to promote this book and to do all the marketing with it, I mean, that's a job unto itself, and that's really is a long period. And I'm glad that you're doing it because that's how you and I met, and I value what you bring to this program, what you bring to me because of the book you've written
thank you.
and the story that is yours that
Thank
nobody else has.
And that's why I believe that my kids are like, how are you okay with this, mom? And I'm like, they're like, you can't even take me to this practice, or you can't even walk a dog if you want to. I'm like, well, this is a gift. It let me write this book. So it's it's a gift.
It's an important gift. And this is also, tell your children that this is your legacy, doggone it. And that in 10 years and 15 years, your book is going to be on a coffee table somewhere, or it's going to be in a used bookstore, or it's going to be in a library, or it's going to be in a bookstore, and somebody's going to pick it up. They're going to read it, and it's going to change their life. That is the highest legacy that there is.
And even in the book, I talk about how timeless and priceless is the information I talk about. So I agree.
And it's vital for people to recognize and to understand if you want to live your best life. And that's not, it's not necessarily that you're going to live your richest life and you're going to have yachts and you're going to have all these beautiful people around you. It's not that. It's
No, it's
living.
not.
Describe what it is.
It's funny because definitely is not accomplishments or wealth. It's more of a sense of peace. It's a sense of meaning and happiness and joy inside you that you don't need those superfluous things. You have that kind of contentment inside.
And I know a lot of people who have a lot of money and they're not content.
No, they're not.
Because quite frankly, there's never going to be enough money. I have a relative of mine that has increased his net worth by a bunch, and it's just the expense of the toys he buys. He used to buy secondhand stuff. Now he buys new stuff, but he still is broke because he's spending all of his money on doing that. but it's more expensive stuff. So
Well, that's what I talk about in my humility chapter. There's always going to be someone with more than you, whether it's more money, more education, more experience. There's always going to be someone with more. So, I mean, at the core of it, be humble, because there are people out there that have more. They know more.
and at the end of the day, none of that matters, because you get to know who you are, and
Right.
that is, and to look in the mirror and love yourself. By the way, we're talking with Dr. Laura G. Okay, and I'm
Gabayan.
going to thank you. I'm going to spell your last name, which is Gabayan, and you can go to Laura Gabayan.com, and you can find out more about the book. You can buy the book and learn all about her remarkable story. We need to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to break down and go into the 8 elements, and talk about how each one, if you value them and honor them, and how they can change your life. And by the way, when you change your life, you're not just changing your life, you're changing all the people around you, and you can really create something unique. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Positive Talk Radio. We're going to take a short break to tell you audio and music creators about our commercial affiliate, Lyric Vids, specializing in creating amazing and engaging lyric videos. Are you looking to promote your videos in the most engaging way, but you don't have an animator and an editor? Whether you're an artist, musician, or business with a message to share, our lyric videos are designed to hook viewers and amplify your reach. Go to positivetalkradio.net/lyric vids. That's positivetalkradio.net/LYRICVIDS now to get started. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. We hope you enjoyed learning about our affiliate Lyric Vids, who specialize in creating captivating animated lyric videos. Now let's get back to the show.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, right here on the Brushwood Media Network and elsewhere. We have Dr. Laura Gabayan, who is with us. She is the author of the incredible book, Common Wisdom. And by the way, Dr. Laura, or Dr. G, I just want to say that common wisdom ain't so common in a lot of places. And I know you, or have you found that common wisdom is common amongst us all?
Well, I think first of all, the name common wisdom came from the elements that were common among the 60 people. So that's where the idea came from. And I think depending on who you talk to, there are several of the 8 that are important to them. There's several that may not be, or on their radar. Like, for example, myself, the chapter hardest to write was spirituality. Because I was born, I was in medicine and science, and I always learned that if you can't see it, it doesn't exist. And I just didn't understand it. And initially, not that it just the first chapter, I didn't know what spirituality was. And then when I wrote it, it was, I realized, wait a second, it's the idea that there's a bigger power. And I understood it more. So I think when you look at the 8 elements of common wisdom, which is resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity, I think it's realizing that it's there. You just have to kind of bring it up or make it important in your life.
You know, you being a doctor and being a researcher, I have something I want to run by you real quick and see what you think of this concept. I was talking with my son, who is a diesel mechanic. So he's used to schematics. He's used to a certain way. This is, you tighten the bolt this way, and this goes this way, and this is how, and everything fits. It's just the way it's supposed to be. You can't make it up. he can't do a bunch of different things with it. It is the way it is. He called me the other day and he said, Dad, and I said, what, son? Because he knows the work that I do and with positive talk, and it is of spiritual nature. And we talk about a lot of those concepts. And he says, do you know what a transducer is? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, a transducer is in your microphone. And said, it is? And he said, yes. And that what it does is it translates your voice into vibration. Then your vibration is sent out to wherever you send it, to the mixer, to elsewhere. And then on the other end is a transducer that turns it back into, from vibration and energy, turns it back into something that that is your voice. So there's a and he said, this guy I was talking to, and he said, that's how your brain works, really, ultimately, is it's a huge transducer, because it sends energy out to others and stuff. So, and I haven't got it figured out totally, but does that make any sense at all, or do I need to be on medication, Doc?
I don't know. I think at the end of the day, yes, as like your son, you can bring it down to the facts and the science, but it's important to also realize there's more to it. There's the spiritual perspective, and we don't know what that is, right? But it's kind of the gut feeling that I'm sure your son can't explain. When you have a gut feeling about something, when your brain may act like a transducer, but then you have a mind and you have thoughts about it. That's spirituality. That's a level that we can't explain, and that you can't understand, because it's not, science can't explain it either.
Well, and that's why I've done over 2,000 interviews, and I've interviewed a lot of psychic mediums and psychics and energy workers and healers and all that kind of thing, and they'll all tell me that they don't know where it comes from. It's like a musician; they don't know where their inspiration comes from, how it gets to them. Paul McCartney wrote Yesterday, and it was a dream that came to him in the middle of the night. So he doesn't know. We don't know a lot of these things that are entwined with us, but if we accept the fact that they are real and we don't poo-poo them and we allow for them, then that opens up a whole bunch of positive gateways for us, doesn't it?
It does, and as I said, it's hard for some people to accept it. I accept pretty quickly, but it took me years of seeing patients to accept that, you know what, I have to change course. This is not my life. I can't see patients right now. I just can't. And it took me a while. So accepting can take a while, and it can take a lot.
Yeah. Well, but the interesting thing about that is that look at when you were feeling poorly and had to give up your practice, before you're sitting here talking to me about the brand new book that you've written, which is really doing quite well. You didn't think any of this was possible.
No, and that's what I said. I talk about it in my resilient chapter. Think of things as not happening to you, but happening for you. And when you think of it that way, you realize, wait, there's a bigger picture that I don't know and I can't see. And so had someone said that to me when my body started to feel not the same and I couldn't see patients, and emergency medicine is very intense. It's not like cerebral. You don't sit there and just think, but you have to do a lot, and I couldn't do that. And so if someone had said to me, well, you're going to change this around and write a book, I'd be like, no way. I just want to see patients. So, yeah, I think going back to what you were saying, it's some things you don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I've told this story before, And I'll tell it again. My radio career, which started in 2003, was an accident because I had no idea. But one thing led to another, and one little voice in my head led to another, and then circumstances were created in a way to make it possible for me to do this and to continue with it. And there's been a whole long 20-year cycle of doing that, just like you're in the middle of. You've got this book written, and now you're promoting it, and you're going to end up being on some major television shows and things like that, because this is an important piece of work, especially in today's age. And so you're in the middle of it, and it doesn't matter. You don't need to know what the end is, because you're still in the formation of it all, right?
I agree. And I say that, in this new culture, having internet, Instagram, all these social media sites, wisdom has really taken the back seat. And people don't, like, for example, my fifth element was humility, right? And then there was tolerance. We lack both of those. We're intolerant of other thoughts, other viewpoints. And a lot of it is we put something in the internet and it feeds us more of the same. And we're not humble, on Facebook, we don't show our humble side. So I definitely feel like wisdom is taking the backseat and we need more of it.
Boy, from your mouth to God's ears, do we need a lot of it today? Because right now we have got a lot of people that are gaining fame and fortune and not being genuine and not being humble and not being legitimate in what they're doing. We're talking with Dr. Laura, I'm going to say it again, Gabayan. Say it again. Gabayan. God, I'll get it now. Gabayan. Dr. Laura Gabayan, go to her website, which is lauragabayan.com. We need to take our station.
Or you know what? The initial website I used to recruit my 60 was the wisdomresearchproject.com, and that does feed into this because that's easier to remember. So if people Google or look up the wisdomresearchproject.com, that'll go into my website too. And all of them both go into Amazon, where you can buy my book, Common Wisdom.
Perfect. And we need to take a station break. We'll be right back with Dr. G. Don't go away.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We have Dr. G with us. And by the way, you have a wonderful smile. Do you know that?
Thank you.
And it's great to have you here because you've written a book called Common Wisdom, which ain't so common, I'm sorry to say, in this day and age. And it's resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, tolerance, humility. That's a big one because right now, and you said it, on the internet and with social media and stuff, everybody's trying to not be humble. They're trying to look at me, and get as many clicks as they they can so that they can say that they're getting 1 million clicks, and then somebody's liable to pay them for that, even though they don't have anything important to say or anything with wisdom to say. They're just spouting stuff. And the creativity, which is huge because that feeds into a lot of different things, and curiosity, which leads to creativity. So I love your list. I just love the whole thing. You've done well, young lady. You've done really fine work.
Thank you. You know, I think about creativity and curiosity, and I'm like, well, it's something we all have. We don't know we have it, but think about little kids. Think about how we're all creative and curious when we're small. And as we get older, we lose that. So we all have it inside us. Some may focus on it and some may not, but we all have it.
We do, whether it is when you're a little kid and you're playing house with some or playing school, or you're playing in the army now, and you've got a stick. In my day, now they have plastic, toy guns, but in my days we would grab a stick and that became a gun and stuff way back when in the 60s. But when we were children and we didn't think anything of it, we thought this is really cool. And then as we get older, it's like, no, you got to be serious. You got to knock that stuff off and be serious about stuff and quit daydreaming. I got accused in school of daydreaming a lot because I wasn't wasn't particularly interested in what they were telling me, so I would daydream. And then they would go, "Would you wake up and stop daydreaming?" It's like, and now that I'm older, I would say, no, that's the exact wrong thing to say to somebody. We want creativity. We want someone to be curious about things and about life, don't we?
Well, I think that's the thing with creativity and curiosity as well. But creativity, suddenly, so a lot of what went into these 8 were some other elements that kind of collapsed into them. And so, like, for example, positivity had people who were very grateful. Gratitude was a big one, and humor was another one. And for creativity, it was also people who were very creative with their lives and the way they lived. And they wore many hats. And we don't have that these days as much. We don't have someone that does this and that and this and that. No, it's always you're you're the expert in this, and that's it. And we like want someone to fall into that label, and that's it. We don't think outside the box. That's them wearing many hats.
Yeah. Well, in the olden days, you had, well, like vaudeville as an example. There's a gentleman that I want to reference. His name was Sammy Davis Jr. and he was a tap dancer. He was a singer. He was a stand-up comic. He was an actor. He could do all of these things, unlike and because he was, really trained well to do all. And unlike today, where they want to put you in a box. This is your little box. This is where you get to be.
Right, and that's that was why I wrote the book. It's because I didn't feel like most people kind of thought outside the box, except for the wise. But the more I think about it, I'm like, I agree with you. I mean, we all have it in us, and we just need to ignite it.
Yes, if we work to ignite it, but it does take and I can do everything right off your list because it does take a lot of work, but it takes a lot of resilience.
It takes practice, and that's why when you read my book, there are excerpts and things to ask yourself that are dated. Things may change this year, and in 10 years they may be different. And that's why I did that, because we all change in time. And who we were 10 years ago is different than who we are now. And so it takes practice, but it takes, as I said, a lot of time and patience.
Now, I wanted to ask you, because in your research, you talked to people that were like from 50 to 79, because something magically happens when we're 80 or above. What happens?
So when they found that wisdom is related to age and an inverse U relationship, they found that those that are older in their 80s or 90s are not as flexible and they're not as open-minded. And so I didn't want to risk, oh yeah, this person was, this person wasn't. So that's why I stuck to people who are 50 to 79. Because I looked at people who were in their 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Well, nowadays it's like you've heard the expression, the 50s are now the new 40s. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but I'd like to think that at my tender age, I'm in my middle 60s, that I'm still creative and I still have got an open mind, but then I look at people that are in their 90s or 80s, and they tend to not be as flexible as they used to be. This is the way we've always done it, so this is how we're going to do it, damn it.
Right. And that, it's funny because, well, to come up with this, I looked at both sociology, psychology, and geriatric journals. And that's what they had found. And they, of course, look at wisdom in a very mechanical way. And that's what they found that had that inverse relationship with age. And that's where it came from. But
Isn't that sad? In some circles, I say that's why we get old and die, is because we are no longer able to accept new ideas, new thoughts, new ways of being and stuff. So because we get regimented into the same thing that we've always done, like when you're in your 80s, same-sex marriage would be considered a very bad thing, because it always was for their whole lives. When you're a little younger, you're a little bit more flexible about that kind of thing. Is that what you found?
well, I wonder if you say that as you get older, you kind of run out of the opportunity to learn. I feel like when you're older, your body also isn't able to function as well.
Boy, no kidding.
Huh?
Boy, no kidding. I know that.
So it's
I ain't
just
even
not-
there yet, and I'm getting there.
I believe, and I'm sure you do too, that the soul continues. But your body, after a while, it's just like been there, done that. It's finished with it.
But what a brilliant point, because you're absolutely right. And also, because I know that, and I don't believe this, I know this, our soul continues. We get to go home, we get to regenerate and do whatever we do on the other side, and then if we decide to come back, we do that. And that's just my point of view, and then you can write somebody else about that, not me. But when you are, and I know lots of people that are in their 80s, it's like, look, I know that this is the best I'm ever going to feel again. This is the most wide awake that I'm ever going to be. It's just going to be downhill from here. I will never be able to run a marathon again. I'll never be able to do what I used to do and love to do. My dad had that. He was an avid golfer, and he was a really, 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 really good golfer. And then he got older, and then he broke his hip, and then he couldn't golf anymore. And so that was his life. And so at the end, he was kind of like, well, it's been a good life. I might as well, go skip to the loo, my darling, and get on with it, because I can't do what I used to be able to do. And that I think is the challenge that older people have, is to keep that sense of enthusiasm and resilience and keep on going regardless of your age. But
I think I have found. I mean, look, I spoke with people who are 50s, 60s, and 70s, and regardless of the age, they have that enthusiasm, as you said. The very one person who had all 8 elements, he's like, I barely made it. I'm 79. I'm turning 80 in a few months. And then he had that enthusiasm. So I wonder if it's more of the feeling you have inside. If it's a sense of I've had enough, I don't want to deal with this, or you know what, I'm older and wiser, with age. I do get to see my grandkids or little kids and wherever it is, you know. So I think it's perspective, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% because this is what I'm finding because I've never been this age before this lifetime. So this is a new thing. Every and you know what I mean. Every year we get older. You've never been that before. So you get a whole bunch of new experiences. But what I'm finding is that because my kids are are now middle-aged smelly men themselves, are they've got their own lives. They don't think about me as being quote unquote dad anymore because they're busy. They've got their own stuff to do, and I'm finding that people my age and older get that a lot. Is that their families? And by the way, if you're younger and you've got an older folk, would you be nice to them, please? Just be nice to them. That's all I ask. But you know what I mean, though.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing, right? It just shows you've done a good job. That they're not dependent on you, that they have the bigger wings to soar. And that you have kind of cut the cord. Because I'm sure you were not connected to your parents as well. So
My parents moved away from me when I was 19, and he had a job and they transferred him to another state, and they said, "Well, are you coming or are you out on your own?" And I said, "Well, I guess I'm out on my own because I ain't moving there," and stuff. So, but I mean, you're right. They cut the ties. It's time for me. The only time that I really worry about my kids is when they call me at a time when I'm not normally expecting them to call me, because
right.
then they're wanting to get my checkbook out for whatever
Oh,
reason.
they probably need help,
Yep.
and they're asking you for help some way, and they're lucky that they have someone to ask for help. There are kids who don't.
That's
So,
true.
and you're lucky that they're in your life and they want that.
Yes, I wish they wouldn't want quite so much of it, but having
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. If you were, God forbid, if you were unhoused or homeless, they wouldn't be calling you, right?
that's a fact. I would actually be living on their porch, is what I would be doing.
Right. So I think it's you can only see the positive side of that.
Exactly. And I do. I like to think that I need to. I haven't read your book yet, but I've got to, because I really think that I am in endeavoring to live all 8 of these, because they are all very important. And thank you for writing this book, by the way.
Oh, it was, it's funny because I believe that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And at the time, I was going very aggressive against the Lyme disease, and it was causing me to wake up in the middle of the night. So I would like trudge over to the computer at like 1:30 in the morning, and I'd write parts of the book because I couldn't, because the Lyme would wake me up. So it allowed me to do it. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it, but it allowed me to write the book.
When we come back from this break real quick, it's just a 30 seconds, so behave yourselves and stay right where you are. I want to tell a story of another author that came on my show, and this will be indicative of what you just said. We'll be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. That's me, by gum. And we're talking with a great author who's written an extraordinary book, and it's a book that is important for everyone to read and to take whatever gift that you are given by reading that book is the gift that you should take with you, because it will mean something a little bit different to everybody. But it also means that you're living your life in a perhaps a little bit different way. But as a writer, Dr. G, I want to just mention that last year I interviewed a gal. She's an orthodontist by trade. And so she's got a nice practice, and but she felt like she had a story to write, and but she didn't know when she'd have the time, and her practice was full and so forth. And so one day at 4 o'clock in the morning, she's lying in bed and she hears this voice: "Get up and write." She looked around, thought there was somebody in the room. The voice was very clear. It was very clear that somebody was in the room and was telling her to write. So she gets her robe on and she goes and looks around the house. Nobody's there. So because apparently she pays her therapist a lot of money, she texts her therapist at 4 o'clock in the morning and says, "I think I need to be on medication because I just heard a voice." And the therapist said, "Well, are you writing?" And so she got a journal out and a candle and she sat down and she started writing. From 4 to 5, she wrote. At 5 o'clock, everything dried up. She couldn't write anymore. So she read what she wrote and said, "This is interesting." And then she put it away and went to work. And then the next night, same thing happens. Only this was a voice in her head. Get up, like the voice at 1:30 in the morning, and get up and start writing. And so she would write every day from 4 to 5 in the morning for 18 months. And that's the resilience. And so she wrote that. She came up with over 10,000 pages, which is of a story of her life, only a little bit different. And she now has 4 books out because
Wow.
it was like her intuition, her guides, her the folks from the other side, her angels. I don't care what you call it, but somebody was saying, "Get up and write," because that's what you should do. And that's what you had. That's what happened to you.
I don't know if anything had told me to get up, but I would just wake up, and I didn't like it. I was exhausted, but I would just wake up and I would just I'd be like, okay, let me get to my computer and write. I have the 8 elements in my book, Common Wisdom, which was resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity. I had those 8. I knew those 8, so I had to start writing.
Yep, and they are important. They are. Here's one that is halfway down the list. It's right below spirituality, but I think it's in this day and age is one of the most important wisdoms that we can have as an individual, and that's tolerance of other people, and just plain tolerance.
I wonder, yes, tolerance, the idea of tolerance is being open minded. When we think initially of tolerance, we think of religious, racial, but it's more than that. It's more of being tolerant of someone else's ideas and thoughts and what they stand for, and being curious about them. This is why I believe that all elements are related. I feel like being tolerant is a way of kind of showing interest. It's a way to connect with others.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And if you can be tolerant, if somebody eats a little loud, be tolerant of that, and then there's no point in getting mad at them. So, but tolerance is right now we lack that in our country,
We do.
and we're not interested in somebody else's opinion.
And I wonder if the internet has had a really big role in that.
Huge.
Because as I said, you search for something and all of a sudden you fall into this category, and then it feeds you more of what you want to read, what you want to see. So anyways, I
Go ahead.
I think that I have to go soon. I have another call soon.
Well, then we can do that because we're just about at the end of our time anyway. So, but let's get your information out again about how they can get your book and everything that we need to act on Common Wisdom.
So Common Wisdom is sold on Amazon. And to access that, then go on my website, lauragabayan.com. And that is such a hard name. I think what may be easier is remembering the wisdomresearchproject.com. And that will lead to lauragabayan.com. Because initially, even before I wrote Common Wisdom, I did the project at the Wisdom Research Project, and that's how I did it.
Well, and all I got to say to you, young lady, is congratulations. I know you've got another interview to do because you are marketing this book and you're doing a tremendous job, and it is important work. Please continue to do it. So I'm going to let you go do what you've got to go do, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It was really great to talk to you.
It was really great to talk to you, and be well. And I hope that everything clears up for you in short order. And then I would love to have you back to talk more about this book in a little bit down the road.
I'll come back and I'll be fine.
That would be really cool. I would love for you to do that. And before you go real quick, take care, Laura. Lots of love from somebody in my office. So at least I know now that they listen to me anyway. So that's good. So I want to thank you so much for being here, and go do what you've got to do. Go do and get that book out there. Thank you, Doctor.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's